everybody. I am Aakanksha and I am back with Aditi with another session of Masterclass with Mentors. And I'm sure you all know us by now. You do know that Aditi is the CEO of EngineerBabu, and I definitely do not need to introduce her anymore. So, welcome Sanjay sir. Welcome to our second session of Masterclass with Mentors. And let me introduce you to the concept that we are hosting here today. So thank you first of all for agreeing to be part of our session. And generally speaking, we've seen that tier two or below sort of cities do face a dearth of mentors, especially when it comes to new age startups. So most people are involved in traditional mom and pop shops, and the ones who are doing something phenomenal have already left for the cities. So, as a young founder in these cities, most of them are a little apprehensive of approaching mentors. So, we decided to come up with these series. So, everybody who's joined us today, if you've been here before, you do know that we can raise our hands on the right to ask any questions. So, make sure you have your questions ready. And over to you, Sanjay sir, to get started with the presentation.
Thank you so much, Aditi and Aakanksha, for having me on your show. It has always been pleasure talking across two founders and entrepreneurs. In fact, if you look into our 100x class 01, where we funded 20 startups, in that we had at least 40% of the startups coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities.
Oh,
So
very
I
cool.
believe that startups have no boundaries. That their thinkings are all global. Yes, there are always going to be resources, plus and minuses in every city and location where you work across. But I believe that's where entrepreneurs sign up for, right? For the unknowns, unambiguous. How do you overcome those challenges? And let me just run you through the current topic. What Aditi has shared with me in terms of how to pitch to a VC in the COVID-19 post times and the current times, right? So that's a presentation. I don't think so. We'll be able to cover this in this short time, but whatever best I can, I will try to cover across on the slides per se. So that 100x VC is a first check fund. We work with early stage startup founders. We ensure that these startups become scalable. We help them raise the next round of money. We actively work on their business models, closely engage with the startup founders. In fact, just to share across, we recently did our numbers. Each startup in our portfolio could manage across average of 37 meetings with individual investors, which were facilitated by 100x for the next round of funding. So that's a brief on 100x kind of stuff. In case you want to send out your pitches, most welcome. We read every pitch. We respond across to the pitches where we believe we have an you know fit where the expectations can match across and we can take it forward. So write to us at pitch@100x.vc, and any comments on the session, please post it on @100x underscore VCs. Uh, Questions to be answered by founders. That's one of the key slides which I would have across. But before I go over there, I'll just put across some thoughts. What is in mind of investors in COVID-19, right? What are investors thinking? So let me give you a couple of examples. Like for example, today market dislocations and consumer behavior change is happening across. So one of our portfolio company called Reco Social and Carnival, this they earlier. So let me give you a brief. Reco Social was purely focused on influencer marketing, and they converted their whole software going into the SaaS model. Carnival, which was more of a e-invoicing company, has positioned now themselves as a contactless, transaction kind of stuff. So how do you work across on those new market dislocations and consumer behavior is very important for your portfolio or you as a startup, right? So this is what I'm sharing, some examples, live examples of companies which has taken this COVID-19 and moved forward with their businesses. So, for example, we want to discover founders who are turning the setbacks into springboard for opportunities. So you need to position pitch before crisis and after crisis. So I'll just take one example here. For example, Snug, one of my portfolio company, was more in getting. It was a marketplace of talent and people who would join together to meet in a real-time coffee shop and explore discussions and opportunities between them. They pivoted themselves into a complete video model. Receipt book, which was more of an converting cash memo or for small shops, they actually converted themselves on online ordering and delivery side. So these are various startups which turned that setbacks into a springboard for opportunities, and they are seeing traction for their next round of funding. Disruption and opportunity go hand in hand. You need to have growth mindset. One of my portfolio companies called FNV Farms, they were all set across in terms of delivering fruits and vegetables at home, and this creates an opportunity, huge opportunity for them, and their business scaled very rapidly, and they picked up on that thread and in fact raised some money also on that. Extreme focus is required. So we look at founders who can are laser sharp and focused. Idea is to question everything in your process. So one of our portfolio company called Pocketly and Foodmonk Collar, our portfolio what I mentioned, but let me give you example with Pocketly. They are into micro loans, so giving loans to the students. They started questioning across which are the students and processes within which they were giving across the loans, and their delinquencies actually went down from 3.4% to 2%, right? So how do you use this crisis for opportunity? Value creation, valuation through value creation. Everybody's looking at growth plus profitability. One of our portfolio companies, Data Sutram, which was into pure analytics on location intelligence, they started working on complete data as a service platform, and they got right now a great term sheet, and they are just closing the round. Amazing growth what they have seen across within the crisis. How do you explain value creation you bring to clients, right? You have to market. So how do you use this time to market? So PickRight, which is a marketplace for SEBI registered investment advisor, and Finline for online loan documentation, they all created videos, started pushing across the training to their customers, started to. So you need to be ready today so that you can take on the business tomorrow. So how do you market? There is a change which is happening across where the relationship with technology by consumers is in an accelerated mode. So how do you get an engagement done across, right? So for example, Dio.ai, which is a conversational commerce for blue collar workers for hiring, they started a referral program in this time, and all the blue collar workers who are having currently some layoff, some time to engage across and discovering jobs, this become a right time to create the resume database using DOAI. Very similar Simor, which is an a closed group cycling bicycle sharing mobility platform. They started working in closed premises within the compounds to ensure that people are getting some engagement with their cycles. Time and money is maximization, right? So how do you maximize it and build a scale? Decadence, which is a chocolate fudge brand, and Doc 32, both of them use across their time effectively to build products to get an engagement remotely. So it's important to ensure that your time and money is maximized. Hiring some top talent. In fact, if you have cash and you are growing, there is less competition in hiring. So Nourish actually deployed a lot of capital to hire a great management team, because they are in online training academies and creating across training for businesses. So any businesses which were offline, they've got a huge traction in COVID time. Now, command and control, lead from the front, right? So you need to look at startup founders who are leading from front. So one of our portfolio company, Renal Project, which is into micro dialysis chain, they because of the hospitals getting filled with COVID patients, a lot of the big hospitals refuse those dialysis, or they had shut down that. and they had huge traffic. So out of the two centers, they opened four centers of microdialysis, and the founder himself was on road helping patients to get the dialysis done across. Valuation consideration. So idea is, at this times, many of the time founders which were pro COVID, they should try and find across right valuations and meet the expectation what investors are seeking as a deal. So Road Metrics, one of our portfolio company, could manage to strike a great deal and close the term sheet. So just to give you a brief, I mean, so these are the points which are getting discussed across with portfolio companies, and also to the new companies, saying that before crisis and after crisis, how startups have tried to pivot their business. So what are the questions you need to answer, right? What is the reason for your company's existence, right? What is the mission? What problem you are solving? What value proposition? Your elevator pitch. What's your ask? That's like the key stuff which any of the investor would be keen to look at across, right? What problem you are looking, and then comes across how big is that problem, what is the potential, what market size, what is the addressable opportunity, what's your focus, what's your positioning and segmentation, right? So idea is, any investor would look at very large opportunity market size. So somebody going to pitch across saying that I am targeting a 200 300 crore market size. These are small numbers for any VCs. Idea is, they need to look at minimum $1 billion market size opportunity and upwards. So you need to think across, is your business investable, is your business venture ready, right, to take venture capital, because venture capital is all about solving a very large problem. Today it might be very small, the market size can be rapidly growing. So for example, today autonomous cars is a very small market, non-existent, but it's rapidly going to grow across. So everything which is on future, where the markets are going to get created, will get investor attraction. Why do people want this product more than any other product? This is very, very important. Are you developing painkillers or vitamins, right? Painkillers get immediate traction and the scale because it's filling one gap which is very, very important and required, right? So is it need to have, nice to have? uh, does your product have that non-linear growth, right? Virality with velocity. Now your growth or your success is all going to be non-linear. In the venture world, everything which is non-linear, money chases them. So how do you create a non-linear path for yourself? Why is this right time to build a startup, right? Timing is very, very important. So what is the way that you enable, you think about the timing, right? What are the economic impetus, right? So what is the, I mean, you got a lot of capital which is having, the economy is booming, so there is an economic impetus, so there are better ways of doing things, or enabling technology, right? Trajectory of innovation. So with consumer mobile phone and mobility today, there are a lot of enabling technology which changed the way businesses were created. So for example, GPS was an enabling technology, and what created was Ola, which came out of it. So how does that, you use the technology for creating innovation, right? Cultural acceptance, reprogramming of consumer behavior. We are seeing today a lot of reprogramming of consumer behavior happening across, with tons of new opportunities where the journey of a customer is beginning online, right? Everything which is happening across starts at home. There is a new segment of industry which is getting created, which is called home economy. So any businesses which can start from home are great, has a great potential to get investor funding. Businesses which are all weather business, which means that they are growing in adversity also, we'll see across a lot of investor attraction. Understand where you are now, what metrics you have, what's your traction, how well you can position yourself for VC funding, calculate across the funds you need to scale, right? So minimum, what is the next milestone you want to achieve with those funds? It can be as low as 25 lakhs to as huge as 25 crore, but how do you deploy capital at what period? So typical, mostly the funding rounds what we see across happens anywhere between 6 months to 18 months kind of period, and do you have that metrics or the timeline on use of capital? Team, identify what competency gaps you are. Every team has holes, right? but you need to share it with the investor, saying that okay, this is one person whom you would need in the team. If you show vulnerability, you become more human, rather than saying that okay, I'm a single founder, I am superhuman, I can do everything, right? So you need to see what kind of team you would need across. One of the questions which many of the VCs have is, why isn't everyone working it on it, right? What's the competition, right? Know your landscape. Don't say that you don't have competition. There is some way the business is happening across, right? So how are you well with the competition? What is the unfair advantage, your mode? Why should investor invest in you and not in the competition? What are the disruption which you have created, and what's the entry barrier you have created for other people not to enter in this space, right? Or becomes difficult to enter in the space. So why isn't everyone working on it is one of the big questions which VCs typically have. Why do you do them better than the established incumbents, right? So now that you know that there is a competition and there are big boys in the space doing something, what kind of execution you will do, what kind of business plan you have, what's your path to profitability, is there something unique about your business plan? How do you price your products? What is the delivery and consumption, right? Distribution, sales channel. So why do you do better? What is so unique about it you need to establish against the large and big boys? Tips to improve your VC pitch, right? This is in general, irrespective of COVID or not COVID, is to have this elevator pitch template. So this is a great pitch template where you can put across, I intend to offer, insert product and service to what type of customer, so that there will be any benefit of that customer. So if you fill in this template, that's your crafting your elevator pitch in a best way. And remember, like everything, practice makes perfect, right? So practice, practice, practice. It's very important, how you say besides what you say, right? So just practice, practice on your elevator pitch. So this is a great template for you to ensure that you have a basic framework in which you can build an elevator pitch. So convert product into business. Now, this is one of the big problems what I see with many of the founders. They pitch technology, they pitch products. So for example, I have built 128-bit encryption. What do I do with that? So what, right? It doesn't matter to me, right? So I built 128-bit encryption is a tech. What do I do with that as an investor? That doesn't excite me. This security is unbreakable. Now that is something exciting. So what? My question as an investor would be: it can transfer valuable credit card data safely without that. Now that is a business problem what you are solving, and that is for which people will pay money, and that is where you will make money, and that is where you have now converted product into business. So you need to use so what. So what framework gives you a simple way to convert product into business. It is very, very important to do that. Pitch talk numbers, right? Most of the time we see across adjectives in the pitch. The we want to become the largest cyber security company in the world. Now that does not have any value to investor, right? There is no specific goal. There is no number which you are targeting. Largest does not mean anything. The goal has to be, we want to become 100 million in ARR as a security software startup in 3 years. Now that's the precise way that you can talk number to any investor. Now this is very, very important for any startup who is going to pitch to VCs, to talk numbers, right? And numbers talk, right? All statements, anything in your pitch deck has to have some numbers, some metrics associated with it. Do not use rhetoric, do not use adjectives, right? We have built the fastest check image processing software. No impact, right? What do you mean by fastest? So we build a software that processes check image under 5 seconds, whereas industry average for others is 40 seconds, and this can save banks every year upwards of 500k. Now this is a full impact. This is where investors now can understand what your tech or what your IP can do and what it can deliver, right? It's amazing the way numbers can change your opportunity to raise funds. Talk numbers, pitch numbers. Use one metric. This is one mistake which most of the time we founders do, is using across rupees, millions, lakhs, crores, everything into वो बोलते हैं ना, पूरा खिचड़ी बना देते हैं नंबर का. I have to interpret, right? It is irritating to decode any numbers which has so many variables. So just put, either you put in 1 crore, and everything is in rupees and crores and lakhs, right? So don't use millions and crores together. Do whatever it takes to become an entrepreneur, right? So if once you have begun your journey, I believe that entrepreneur is someone who takes a decision and makes it right. So in is very comfortable with unknown. You don't want to work with, as an investor, work with crybabies. You want to work with entrepreneurs who are constantly thinking of solution, constantly doing obstacle busting, right? Has that वो पागलपंती बोलते हैं ना, irrational perseverance, where they can go out and beat any obstacles, be it COVID, be it coronavirus, what situation we are seeing, and trying to build their growth, right? Pivot. It's like, you must have seen that ants, right? You put any obstacle, they find another way to go around, but they will reach the destination. So that's how you need to be, right? Constantly finding way to move ahead. Entrepreneurs build wealth and not income. This one mistake which I see in many of the startup founder is, they raise money for their own salary. That's not what works at the seed stage. At seed stage or the first check, it's all about building business, right? Once you are at series A, B, definitely you, because there is a large pool of money, the money is available, you can take home your salaries. But at the early beginning, first checks, you you can't expect across salaries going at your place. So one of the stuff what I talk to many of the startup founder, they would have worked across with a very small meager salary or no salary for last 12 months and build and pitching across. Now suddenly once it gets funded, they want to use investor money to give salary rather than using it to build the business. Now you understand, you as a founder hold largest portion of the equity, maybe 80-90%, right? An investor would, or the first check seed stage investor would hold across 10% or maybe 20% of equity. Now when an investor will put money into your startup, the startup is now valued at, let's say, 10 crores, right? And you own 80% of it, which means the your wealth creation is now almost 8 crores. Now you please understand, you are looking now beyond that as a salary also, which is going to happen across in that sense. So found funding for founder salary is a big red flag. VC objections. Please look at VC objections. Very very important. If you don't see any objections from VC, let's say you are on an online pitch, you are working and you got an opportunity. You are pitching to the VCs, and still there is going to be, one second. Let me just shut down my WhatsApp. Otherwise, it's going to keep on pinging. So idea is from a VC perspective, you need to understand, if you don't get enough, what do you say, objection, which means the VC is not interested. And it takes minimum of 7 meetings for a VC to close any investment. So checklist, nobody's going to write a check in the first meeting. So you need to have one more round of meetings, continuous meeting engagement, which means the VCs are interested. uh, if VCs are talking about market size, VCs believe that your ideas can't scale, so you need to prove on market size. So here what VCs are talking about, right? So if there is an objection on market size, then please believe that you need to answer many things and do your groundwork on how can you scale, right? So talk on business scale. If you see across on discussion on customer acquisition or CAC cost, or market go to market strategy, then idea is they are worried about your execution plan. So how do you work across on the execution plan is something where you need to work across. If they are talking more about the competition and the landscape, then they are worried that the other people will be able to raise more round or more money than what you can raise across. So talk about your moat or unfair advantage. So these are you need to understand what VCs are coming and where are they coming across from. If there is a discussion on founders team, they believe that the team is incomplete, right? So after every pitch, analyze, recalibrate your pitch, right? If they are talking across more in terms of the products. VCs don't see market fit across. Unless you get a term sheet, till the time VCs are doubting your business. A term sheet is a logical outcome for any pitch, any engagement where VCs stop doubting and start trusting. Now, what does a term sheet do? That gets into a due diligence mode. So whatever you have spoken or whatever you have pitched, that's where the VCs will start across validating with a quick due diligence and start trusting. And mind well, even after term sheet, there are many times where, or I would say at least 60-70% of the time, term sheet do get closed, but 30-40% of the time, term sheet falls off, right? So you need to be in continuous engagement till the time you see money in your bank. Hear money three times. This is how VC mind work across. And what does VC here? So whenever you pitch your unmet need, market size, solution, simple what he thinks across, is there money to be made? इसमें पैसा बनेगा या नहीं बनेगा? Team execution, are these people who can make me money? Are these people trustworthy? ये लोग भरोसे लायक है या नहीं है as a founder? And financial projection, terms of investments, exits, how much money I can make? मैं कितना पैसा बनूंगा? So idea here is this three things which constantly are there in the investor mind. Is there money to be made? Are these people who can make me money? How much money I can make? What investor here and when you pitch. So founders, when you are doing first time pitching, you need to understand that your first impression is very important, right? It, VC is an unfair business, right? It's a one-person business. So typically, even in class one, when we invested in 20 startups, we saw 1982 deals, right? So idea here is you need, as an investor, it's wrong and unfair, but that's how it works across. We quickly typecast founders, right? Basis on the pattern matching, consciously or subconsciously, which is hardwired into us, right? ये founder अच्छा है, बुरा है, ये business में जाना है, नहीं जाना है, is this pitch great or not? So you need to work on your creativity of the pitch and understand you are getting into a meeting where you are trying to create valuation for your company. Let's say a low valuation of 5 crore, 7 crore. वो 5 करोड़ का मीटिंग है. Are you prepared for that 5 crore meeting where your company is going to be valued at 5 crore? Most of them go very casually to VC pitch meet, right? It's not very important for them. They don't put enough time on meeting and pitching VCs, right? So please understand and be prepared. Emailing pitch. This is one blog which I had written across in detail on 100x.vc website. So please visit 100x.vc to see across how to do an email pitch. But just to give you some gist, there are some pointers mentioned here. You can read it across. It's a self-explanatory. But go to 100x.vc website, check out the blog, and it's well written over there in terms of, because in the current times you are not going to go to events to meet VCs. So if you are to do an email pitch, you need to take care of this points. And one of the major point is, please always do a PDF pitch, not a PPTX, not pushing across anything else, but a PDF works the best, because most of the time investor will read your email first on your phone, right? And if it works well, then it is going to go on the desktop or a laptop. Reasons why startups fail, in just quick closure, kind of build something which no one wants, right? So there's huge amount of startup ideas which fail because there was no consumer, there was no market for it. Then there is lack of focus, right? So I see across startup founder will pitch across saying that हम इसमें भी पैसा बनाएंगे. I've got a 3 revenue channel. It's bad for you. At the seed stage startup, you should have only one focus, one revenue channel, right? You can't be spreading the money invested by investor into multiple revenue channels. Lack of team, single founder typically gets avoided because it's a tough journey. You need at least co-founder, right? So many of the questions which startup founders say that, it is difficult to get a co-founder. I'm not able to get a co-founder. If you are not able to sell your idea to somebody to join you as a co-founder, how do you believe that an investor like VC would give you money? And so you don't have that ability to pitch. Not that a single founder company have not been funded, but those are exceptions. too much pride. People are too much heavy on press and publicity, unwillingness to see and listen, taking advice from their own trusted people but useless ones. So there are many times there are consultants who don't understand the startup space. They see an investor agreement, अरे ये तो तुम्हारा company ले लेगा, right? So investors are not out there to run your company. We are here to invest and make money off you by taking an exit at later stage. So this investor protection clauses are mainly to protect investors' money, because we don't have anything else, right? Except that share certificate, which is of no value unless an exit comes across. Not coachable, do not trust anyone. They don't trust anyone, so they don't listen to investors. Boy in costume, like just out of college, very little respect on finance, throwing money on products or things which does not are not needed across, and raising money too early, too much, too soon, inability to raise the next round of money. Timing is the problem. Why startups fail, because they are ahead of time. Many times there are great ideas, and personally I've been a victim of it. In 2000 dot-com burst, I had built an online accounting software where internet itself was a challenge, and I had built an online accounting software. So I was way ahead of time, right? So premature scaling up, right? Hiring, you get funded and you hire across big boys with big salaries, doesn't work across. So idea is to scale later, right? Scale customers first and products later. Closing notes: learn the art of investor conversations, right? You think programming software is tough, try contacting investors. It is much more tough, right? Build network of startup founders, right? So there are a lot of startup founders who have got funded, raised money. If I get an email recommending any startup from my portfolio company founder, I will definitely have an attention, meet that guy, because my portfolio company startup founder will not put his reputation at stake if this is not a great deal. So use that network to get access and attention, right? Solo founders have tough times, so try to get a co-founder.